Добрый день, здравствуйте, рада всех приветствовать. Сегодня у меня, как вы видите, новый гость. Гость в эфире мой муж. Мой муж, его зовут Хорхе. Мы с ним сидим в разных комнатах, и я сейчас буду проводить с ним интервью на тему того, как ему живется в России. Ну, буквально в начале пару слов, так сказать, представления. Мы вместе уже в следующем году будет 20 лет. Мы первые 4 года жили в Сиднее, потом после этого мы жили в 12 лет в Лос-Анджелесе, и в 2018 году мы решили переехать в Россию, и в 2019 мы переехали. Я с детьми переехала пораньше, а Хорхе переехал в Москву немножко попозже. Он переехал только в августе прошлого года. Соответственно, вот сейчас прошло примерно год, чуть больше года, как он переехал на постоянное место жительства в Москву. В апреле он получил вид на жительство, и вот теперь уже имеет почти все права, так же, как и остальные граждане России. Итак, ну что же, собственно говоря, приступим, начнем. Я буду это интервью вести, естественно, на английском, потому что русский язык Хорхе пока еще недостаточно хорош, но придется вам довольствоваться субтитрами, потому что других идей у меня нет, как это осуществить. Итак, Хорхе, do you want to say hi?
Yes, hello. It's happy to be here.
Good.
First formal interview with my wife, so it's an interesting experience.
Yeah, it is the first one. Right. So, Jorge, please tell us why did you decide to leave the United States, and why did you decide to come to live to Russia?
Well, I don't think I decided anything. I think it was a family decision. And why to leave the States? Let's remember, why did we get to the States? We get to the States because of corporate mandate. It's not that we had a desire to live in the States. And then also because of corporate situation, we got stuck in the US much longer than what we planned at the beginning. It was never our plan to stay there forever. I think it's a nice country. It's a great country. I have nothing against the country. But certainly when it comes to lifestyle, when it comes to friendships, when it comes to personal interrelations, when it comes to gastronomy, which is inexistent, when it comes to culture, which is practically inexistent too, I think it was the right time to come back to Europe, even though I grew up in Mexico because of my roots. My father was from Barcelona, Catalonia, Spain. My mom was from Lebanon, half Lebanese, half Egyptian. So even though I grew up in Mexico, I think I always had much more affinity with lifestyle, European lifestyle, than the Mexican or American lifestyle, if you wish. And so we wanted to come back to Europe, and it was always in my perspective to come back to Europe, to end up my days in Europe. Talking about Europe, provided that my family is in Russia, that you are Russian, you have friends in Russia. I loved the Russian culture. I love Moscow as a city. So we believed that it was a perfect fit. It was a perfect option, and that's why we decided to come and settle down. Finally, after 40 years of a gypsy lifestyle, to settle down in Moscow, Russia.
Now, when you say 40 years of gypsy lifestyle, can you explain to the people who are going to watch it, what do you mean by that?
Well, yes, I left Mexico when I was 23, 24 years old for a training period of 1.5 years in Switzerland, in headquarters of Nestle, with the idea to come back to Mexico after 1.5 years. I did not. Instead, I was transferred to France for a couple of years, 1 year in Paris, 1 year in Marseille. Then I moved for almost 5 years in Barcelona, to Barcelona, Spain. Dream of a city, by the way. Then, when I was getting too comfortable in Barcelona, they moved me for a year for a mission in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Then I spent almost 6 years in Santiago de Chile. Great country, by the way. Then came back to Mexico for 3 or 4 years, for going back to Switzerland in year 2000 for 4 years. Then out of the blue, I was invited to take over a CEO position in Australia, in Oceania, based in Sydney. And I think, Katja, you will agree with me, we had a great time in Sydney. It's an amazing place with great people, great beaches, great ocean, great everything, great food. And after Sydney, we were transferred to the US. And okay, I already said the rest of the story. But at the end of the day, I've been living in 9 different countries, 10 now with Russia, in 4 continents. So it was like about time to mature.
So hopefully 10 is a lucky number for you.
Usually 7.
All over the place.
Usually 7, but that's back behind.
All right. So when you decided to go to live to Russia and you told this to your friends and family, what did they say? Were they surprised?
They said, what? Unfortunately, even though most of my friends is pretty well educated, upper middle class people in Mexico, very well educated, all of them with businesses, etc. But there's a big ignorance about what really Russia is all about. And people in general, I would say, in Latin America, not to say about the US, they don't understand, or they have not understood the transition that happened in this country from the Soviet into Russia.
What do you mean?
Well, there was a transition from the lifestyle in the Soviet to the lifestyle that has been developed in Russia, as Russia, for the last couple of decades, 3 decades.
What are the main stereotypes about Russia still existing? You think that they're those which are mostly mistaken?
We dress in gray. We don't know rock and roll. We don't have comics. It's just the way it is. It's just lack of knowledge.
Yeah, but seriously, what do they think about Russia? What do your friends think Russia is? Especially those who never visited. Majority of them never visited Russia. So how do they imagine Russia?
Gray, cold, without freedom. It's a bunch of stereotypes, ridiculous stereotypes. It's like we all Mexicans, we wear a hat and have mustache. It's all about the stereotypes.
Is it better or worse in the United States, do you think? The stereotypes about Russia.
Let's don't forget where we come from, Katja. Let's don't forget, we come from still a legacy of the Cold War, where there was a massive propaganda in Russia about the US and in the US about Russia or the USSR at that time. And I think there are still some leftovers of that period of time. It was a long period of time. It was like 50 years. You don't get rid of 50 years on the spot, because at the end of the day, more than one generation. So I think we are still seeing some aspects, some legacy from that period in the history of both countries.
Do you think it's getting better or it's getting worse, the image of Russia in the West?
It's getting better, definitely. Getting
really?
Better. Yes.
What proof do you have for that?
I talk to people, I talk to people from Australia, I talk to people from France, I talk to people from Spain, I talk to people from the US. And it always happens the same. It all starts, this kind of a transformation of a perception. It doesn't start on the bottom of the pyramid. It starts in the middle of the pyramid and the high side of the pyramid, because it has to do with education. It has to do with traveling. And it applies, in my view, it applies the same about the perception of Russia, of the world in Russia. I think there is a lot of difference what's going on in the world from the Russian people who has traveled, who has visited the world, who are much better informed, as opposed to the people who they live still in their kind of old neighborhood and never left. It's the same in every country. That's not exclusive to the US and to Russia. It's the same. I mean, Mexico. The well-educated people in Mexico has different perspective as opposed to the people in the bottom of the pyramid. It's just every country is exactly the same. Argentina, Chile, Brazil, you name it.
Well, the question here, a lot of people ask me is, how come you didn't want to go back to Mexico, being Mexican?
After 40 years abroad, when I go to my country, I am as a foreigner as you are, because I have completely different perspective to one of my friends who never left Mexico. On the other hand, I think I already mentioned this, I will mention it again. I grew up in Mexico in a very European, culturally, gastronomically, in a very European setup at home. And I am Mexican, I feel Mexican, but I will not go back to Mexico.
Okay. All right, so let's move to your move to Russia. So you arrived in August last year. And what was for you the most difficult during your adaptation? Because, well, you have to... Сейчас я по-русски скажу. В принципе, за все это время Хорхе много раз был в России. Он в Россию приезжал, за те 20 лет, которые мы знакомы, если не 20, то, может быть, раз 15 он в Россию приезжал, поэтому Москва для него не была новым городом, который он никогда не видел. Но вместе с тем, вы сами понимаете, одно дело это приезжать там на недельку-другую туристом, и совсем другое дело переехать навсегда. So when you finally moved and you arrived to Moscow as a tourist, what was difficult for you?
You mean in terms of adaptation?
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, after living in so many countries for so many years, I'm kind of prepared to get adapted very fast. I have no problem with that in general. I always said that to be an expat and to be living in different countries, the only two first rules is to get adopted and adapted. If you don't get adopted, you are going to be miserable. If you don't get adapted, miserable as well. So to be adopted and adapted is a must. Without that, it will not work.
So how did your adaptation go?
I'm telling you, I have to say that it went very, very smooth, very simple, for 3 reasons. The first one, because I've been coming to Moscow on a yearly basis since 2001. So it's been almost 20 years coming year in, year out. Christmas, dacha, summer. So there was not much new. What was new is to live here, that's for sure. I have to say, and I will give you some merit here, that whatever could have been difficult, you made it easy. Because getting the BNG, getting my medical insurance, getting all my papers, getting the insurance, getting this and that and that and that and that and that and that, you took care of it. So for me, it was kind of a, thank you, it's done. Tick,
easy.
Easy. And I mean it. I'm laughing, but I mean it. It was like that. And that's the second piece. So there was no effort. I mean, I was fortunate, I was lucky enough that there was no effort from my side. Otherwise, it could have been a little bit more difficult, even though I have to say that bureaucracy and the processes here are way, way much easier and more smooth than the ones in the US. I mean, to get healthcare, to get all the papers, is just amazing. I mean, it's kind of a first world versus banana republic. It's just amazing. That was a surprise to me. Actually, that was a surprise, a positive one, but it's a surprise. And the third one is that from family to friends, I felt very, very welcome. Immediately, they all made me feel welcome home. So if you ask me what was difficult, frankly speaking, no, there was
Well,
no.
a lot of people are asking about your Russian language. Did you start to learn it? How fluent are you? Can you maybe say
Well,
some words in Russian now?
yes, конечно, конечно. I've been listening the Russian language for 20 years at home because you always spoke to the kids in Russian. I was not always happy about it, but you still it, which was great.
Let's see, it helped in the end.
Yep. Now, I have to say that I think I can understand something like 50%, and I can express myself probably 20 to 30%. Actually, when I did this summer course in the Rudel University, my preparabattle, at the end of the course, she told me that she was going to give me a compliment. And I said, oh, thank you. What is it? And she said, you are promoted to the level of Sabaco. Okay, I said, that's quite an original compliment. And she explained herself. And I said, excuse me, can you explain yourself? And she said, yes, of course. You can follow orders, you can follow instructions, you listen, you understand, but you are not able to express yourself. Like как Sabaco.
But do you think you will improve and you will get to another level?
Yeah, I have to say I speak 4.5 languages, 4 fluent and 1/2. I speak Spanish, English, French, Portuguese, and good notions of Italian. And I have to say that Russian is a difficult language. It's not an easy one to learn, starting by the fact that you have a different alphabet. So you have to start really like a 4 years old or 5 years old kid to learn the alphabet. So it has some challenges. I think I improve little by little. So probably by the time that I'm walking with the cane, I will be able to say a couple of things.
Okay, but so are you saying that a person can survive in Moscow without fluent Russian? Did you have to
what?
do you meet people who can switch
No,
to English and help you
no.
in English?
Let me separate out. Socially, I think it's important to have the Russian. As you well know, I'm fully independent in stupid things like restaurants and supermarkets and everyday life like that. And in my business environment, most of the people I'm dealing with, most of them, they would speak English. Many of them, they have been educated in the US, in Yale, in Notre Dame, in Harvard, etc. So most of them, at the level of the people that I'm dealing with, BPs, CEOs, investors, most of them, they would speak English. Most of them.
All right. But like ordinary Russian people, did you meet some people who, when they understood that you don't speak Russian, that they switched to English? Did you have experiences like that?
Yes. Yes. Yes, I have some experiences like that. And as you well know, I've been dealing with a lot of people since September last year, upon my arrival. So yes, I would say so.
Okay. All right. And do you have a favorite Russian dish?
Blinis and caviar.
I see. That's nice.
I like
And
pernini, but blin and caviar.
okay. And if you were to characterize Russian people, how would you describe them?
Now you get me we're getting into the good questions. Um, I would say the first word comes to my mind, resilient. Russian people is the most resilient people I met in the world. And we're talking about generalizations. Russians are very resilient, probably because of their history, probably of the history, particularly in the last World War, the Patriotic War. People is very resilient. Maybe because of the weather as well. Maybe because of the weather. But people in Russia, Russian people in general, and I'm sorry, let me make some brackets here. When I talk about Russian people, let's watch out, because I know people in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, in Sochi, people from Ekaterinburg. I haven't been to the provinces. So Russia is too big and too vast and too
Well,
big.
I'm asking you about your experiences with the people that you met, obviously.
Yeah, I would say people is resilient. I would say, and that this I love, people is very sincere. I like it. Some people say that all Russians are rude because they are very direct. I'm very direct. Remember that the Catalan people, they are the Russians of Spain. Nothing to do with a guy from Andalusia, from Madrid, or from Galicia. The people in the north of Spain, whether it's Basque or it's Catalonian, Catalan, they're very direct. And I identify myself with that kind of culture. So when Russians are as direct as they are, I love it. I appreciate it. You know, the one thing, for instance, one of the things that I don't like about Mexico, Mexican people, when you say to whatever, you say no, oh, it's rude, it's not good. He said no. So they say maybe, tomorrow, we'll see, let's see. They don't say no. And that has got me in so many problems in my country, because I'd rather get a no now that not being, between branches. I don't like that. So that I appreciate from Russian people. He's very sincere. The other thing is that Americans, they laugh, they smile, and they are sweet always. Hi, how you doing? Have a great day. And I don't think personally they mean it. It's just being polite.
It's part of their culture. That's the way they are.
Yeah,
They're not faking it. They're just, that's the way they're brought up and educated.
It's not a criticism. It's not a criticism, but I like people who is sincere. It's like, I believe, it's a little bit like in Barcelona. You don't make friends easily, but when you make a friend, you get a friend.
Okay.
In the US, we met a lot of people. How many friends do we have?
A handful.
So there's a difference there. So that's the way that I would probably describe Russian people. The other thing that I have to say, I think Russian people, and I don't know if this is a product of the last 4 or 5 years, or it's been there for much longer than that, but there is a very deep sense of nationalism, of patriotism.
Wait. Nationalism and patriotism is two very different concepts.
Okay.
Please be specific.
Okay, got it. Fair enough. Patriotism.
Expand.
There is a lot of sense of pride of being a Russian, and they love their country in general.
Okay, but Americans also love their country very much, right?
In my experience. Pardon me?
Americans also love their country very much. They're also very patriotic. How is it different in Russia?
They are more sincere, in my view.
All right.
Americans, they love the lifestyle and they love the dollar.
Yes, that's true too. Did you have any negative experience with Russian people? Were people rude to you? Did they show any kind of nationalism or racism towards you because your skin is a bit darker than ours? Any negative experiences?
Пока нет.
No? Okay.
No. And again, let's don't forget that in general, we deal with people on the top of the pyramid, more educated, more open to different cultures, to different races. So it's probably, if I go deeper down in the society, probably I would experience something like that. I don't know.
Well, the question that a lot of people asked me to ask you is, how are you coping with Russian winter? Because now you lived through one Russian winter. Сейчас просто объясню, потому что когда Хорхе всегда говорил, что он любит холод. Я ему всегда говорила, что как бы одно дело любить холод, когда там на недельку поднимаешься куда-нибудь в горы на лыжах покататься, А другое дело, когда ты вот живешь, ну вот в нашей, да, в нашем климате, соответственно, вот с нашей осенью, с нашим ноябрем, с нашим февралем и так далее. И вот, соответственно, у него уже прошел год. Вот хочу узнать. So, how is Russian winter treated you?
To me, there are two kinds of Russian winters: the one I love and the one I hate.
What do you like?
I love Russian winter outdoors. I love the cold. I love to have a good gurkha. I love to go for a walk in the forest with the snow or the ice. I love it. What I hate about Russian winter, and I find absolutely unhealthy, is Russian winter indoors. When you are at with the heating at maximum speed, you are in the room at 26, 27 degrees. Outside is minus. So you go from outside, inside, from minus to 25 degrees. And then even worse, you go from 25 degrees with your throat, your nose, everything hot, not warm, hot. And you go outdoors to the minus. I find it. So I love winter outdoors. I don't like winter indoors.
So you don't get cold in Russian winter?
So, I like cold anyways. And I've
Cold.
been living in cold countries too. Maybe not as cold, but Switzerland is not warm. Spain, the north of Spain in winter is not warm. The south of Chile, Santiago, in winter is pretty cold. So no, I have no problem with cold.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
I guess you did. The question about your social life in Moscow. Did you manage to break into some new circles? Because obviously you are friends with my friends and you know people that I know, but did you manage to establish any new friendships and new connections, new relationships?
It's still a little bit superficial. I cannot say that I have a circle. I have a relationship with few people. But no, I would not say the people that we have developed some relationship, somehow they are related to expats. So I cannot say that there's Russian people, other than your friends. I have very, very nice friends in the gym where I go every day.
Mm-hmm.
But we are very good friends at the gym. We still haven't broke out our friendship outside the gym. But it's
I
time.
see.
It's time.
Okay. And also people want to know, what do you do in Russia? Do you work? What do you do?
Well, I work. I've been opening doors in the financial community. I've been involved already in 3 different projects in Russia with Russian companies. And just recently, I joined the board of an American banker managed with Russians. The mandate within the board is to open the Russian market for these investor bankers and to start pitching investments for Russian capital owners to invest in these companies. As we speak, we are working with a major Indian player in the home delivery food that want to get into Russia. We were going to do the same with a cookie company from Indonesia, big group. Unfortunately, we didn't get to terms. With this Indian group, hopefully we're going to land the project. So yes, there's a lot of activity, and I think Russia traditionally, when it comes to investment, has been looking west. But I realize now that Chinese, they want to invest in Russia. Indonesians, they want to invest in Russia. When Indians, they think about expanding, they are thinking about Russia. So Russia is getting more and more attractive by the day when we look to the east.
Well, obviously you had some business experiences in America and in other countries that you worked in. Now you have some business experiences in Russia. Do you find it in any way different? Something stands out? Business culture in Russia. Do you already have an opinion there?
Not deep enough to share with your audience. Not deep enough. One thing I can say is that it takes some time. It's not easy to earn trust. At the beginning, they see you coming from America, Mexican guy, and they kind. I can read. I can read in their faces. I can read in their minds. They have kind of second guesses. Oh, is it serious? Is it going to be right? So they are very careful. And the other thing is that the old generations are very conservative when it comes to investment, when it comes to make decisions. They're very conservative as opposed to the young generations. I had an experience with a company that wanted me to help them to develop their strategic plan going forward. And the second generation, they were, and they are actually very excited to hire me as their consulting, etc. And the father, who is fading out, but he's still in, said, no way, this is my company. No intruder is going to break in to tell me what to do with my company. You know, it's very conservative.
Nice.
But it's changing. Katia, this is a very normal evolution, and it is not unique to Russia.
Okay. All right. Well, we've been talking now for about half an hour. Let's take a quick break, and then we can continue.
Absolutely.
Okay.